Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another beautiful video on this beautiful channel, on this beautiful day. How you guys and girls doing? Hope you're doing great as always. Please check out the description box for all the nice links. Also drop a like, subscribe if you like the content. So a quick recap from the last video. We initialized the random seed, we initialized the game object, and of course we made the game class with a few variables like the window and the video mode and everything. Also we created the window itself, but we didn't render it. We haven't really shown it yet. So the plan today is going to be that, first of all, we're going to create a game loop like we did in the last game. We're going to make sure the window gets rendered, and maybe we're going to start creating the player itself. But like I said, first of all, the game loop is very important because at least we'll have something to work on. So while. Now, what are we going to have in our while loop? In case you didn't watch the last videos, obviously, since this is a new game, what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to make a little function called running, and I'm just gonna do that in here. I'm gonna make a bool, const bool. You can do that if you want. It's a little more optimized, and running like that. Const on that as well. Whoops. I'm just gonna quickly define that function. And then jump into the CPP file where it should be. And I'm going to return this window open, is open. So as long as the window is open, running is going to return true. And that's a very good way to keep your game running while the window is still open. So now I can just call this running function. So while the game is running, keep the window open. Very good. Another step that is very important in SFML is to check the events for the window. So running is great, but we're going to need poll events. So void poll events is going to be a function that we have. And I'm just going to keep it like that. Also define this. Very nice. Now we need a variable to use for this poll event. So I'm going to create that right beneath endgame here. And it's called the SF event. I'm just going to call it EV. Okay. Or what you can do is you can call it a window event. And or SFML event might be better. That's good. Okay. But these events are basically used is one way to get events from the keyboard, the mouse, the window, if it's closed or resized or whatever. Lots of different events you can get from this. And you do that by polling it from the window. Basically, it's a fancy word for kind of listening for these events within the window and getting them and then doing something from that. So the way we're going to use this is we create the variable here. We don't need to initialize it in init variables. It's all good. But we need to go in here and we need to make sure we have a while loop. And this window dot, because it's the window that polls the events, poll event. And we need to send in this variable we created, SFML event. And while we're polling the event here, we can do stuff. So, for example, I want to press the escape key to close the window, and I also want to close the window by pressing the little X on top. To do that, I'm going to make an if statement. So I chose to do it with a switch case instead. I don't know, I just had a brain fart. Basically, we're just going to use this switch case, and it's going to check the type of the SFML event. Then it's going to check if the event type is closed. Then we're going to close the window, break, and then if it's a key pressed event, we're going to check which key it was that was pressed, and then we're going to close the window. So very basic. I don't know, I was doing if statements and stuff. You know, sometimes you forget, but that's how you want to do it. So that's that step complete. We're polling the events. That's very good. I'm going to do that in the update function. So this poll events right here. And that's going to be done first. Rendering. Let's set that up. This window clear. So first of all, in each rendering loop, you want to clear the old frame. And then you want to do stuff, render stuff in between. And you want to say this window.display, which basically just tells the window that, okay, or SFML that, okay, the window is done drawing, you can display this frame. So all the frame drawing is done here. clearing the old frame, obviously. Once that's done, you have these two functions. We can go out back into our main loop and we can call these two functions. So this, whoops, I done goofed up. There we go. No, I always write this game.update, game.render. And that's basically our game loop. So we're updating and we're rendering all the time. And that should actually display our window. Let's run this once and try. Should not be any issues. Okay, window is being displayed. I can click X to shut it down. I can also press escape to shut it down. All good, all good. Perfect, that's what we want. We can use this variable to close our game as well, but we don't need that right now, so we're gonna keep it unused here. Usually this should be enough. So the second step is gonna be to start off by creating some kind of a player class, which we can use and set up and move basically in the game. To do that, I'm just going to right click and add a new class, since we're going to do everything in classes in this video. And I'm going to call it player. Once that's done, you're good to go. Now for all you Linux users and CodeBlocks users, if this isn't working for you, you can use the if and def stuff here instead of pragma once. That should help you out. Also, if null pointer and stuff, if we ever use that, if that's bugging out, you should use null. So you can check out a video I have on my channel where I explain some differences between Linux and CodeBlocks and stuff like that if you're having issues. Just make sure you do that. But here you go. We have the player class. I'm going to kind of close main down. We don't really need that anymore. And I'm going to include my player here, player.h. Okay. And we're going to need all this stuff in player as well. I think basically the SFML stuff. So I'm just going to paste that in player instead. Right there. And now we can create a sprite or a rectangle shape in player. We're going to keep it to rectangle shape still. Still not going to use any textures. So let's start off with that. Let's go in here and create a little private section. Here we go. Whoops. Okay. Now I'm going to make SF rectangle shape. Why is that not working? There we go. And just call it shape. I'm going to create a private function. No, sorry. Void. Come on. Init variables. And void init shape. These two functions I'm going to create. And just press define both of them. Once they're defined, even though it's a little laggy, we should have them in the CPP file. And these are private, right? So we don't have any variables yet, but the shape we're going to define. So this shape dot set fill color, I want the color green for the player. You can choose whatever you want. This shape dot set size, so we need a size obviously. SF vector 2f, and I'm going to set the player to about 100. Pretty big player, pretty fat. Shape dot set. Now you can set other stuff if you want. I don't think I'm going to set anything else, but you can basically set the position if you wanted to, all that stuff. Well, first of all, call both of these functions in the constructor, otherwise we're going to forget doing that, and we're going to have a bunch of issues. Init shape. So all good, all good. What else do we need? Well, we need a void update and a void render like this, and in here we need to pass our window somehow to render it to that window. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a SF render target pointer target, or we can use a reference as well. You just use a little reference, or no, you know what, we'll keep it to pointer because it'll be easier to send it in. So we'll keep it to pointer, define both of these functions like that, go back, jump back into the CPP file, and you should see them here. Updating is whatever, but we're going to render it. So target draw this shape. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. That's all we're gonna do. In update, we're gonna move the player, and that we're gonna save to the next video, but I'm just gonna create a player object in my private section here, player in game.h, and I'm gonna jump over into game.cpp here, and I'm gonna render my player. This player dot render this window. Now this is a way to render stuff more easily by inheriting stuff from something called SF Drawable, and we will do that in the future for those of you who want to see that, so don't worry. But for now, I'm doing it this way. It's a little simpler to understand, and we're gonna just keep it simple for now until we get to more complicated games. Let's run this and see if we actually get a player on the screen. We do. 100 is a little big, but you do actually see the player. Press escape to close the game. Before I end, I'm just gonna set this to 50-50, I think. .f. Don't forget the .fs. This is a good thing to learn if you're working with floats, to directly set it to floats. Otherwise, it's gonna have to cast that to a float if you have an integer here. Thank you so much, guys and girls. I really appreciate the support. Appreciate all the comments and all the nice comments and everything, and the views and the likes and all that stuff. So thank you so much. Hopefully you're learning. Hopefully it's going well for you. I wish you all the best. Take care, and in the next video we're gonna go ahead and do some more cool stuff. All right, bye bye.